So you got a big meeting set up for was it next week? Planning Commission? There's an article in the paper.
Yeah.
Is that when,
It's the,
Business units over on Old Grand Haven and Van Wagner, right?
no, this is for the master plan. It's a public.
Pre-planning master plan meeting.
any major changes to it?
Well, we're just getting citizen input. It's the citizen input. We're inviting them to come and give us feedback.
Proposing any major changes?
Not yet. We haven't done any proposals of any kind. We had a survey out that 170 or 80 households responded to.
Thank you for taking that on.
Yes, thank you. Are we live?
Yes.
Okay.
Bang the gavel. You're in charge now.
I'm in charge tonight, yep. Okay, I'd like to call to order this February 8th meeting of the Ferrisburg Zoning Board of Appeals. I think before we do the roll call, we should ask, entertain a motion to elevate Mr. Stirk here to status here on the board. He's an alternate.
So moved.
Is there a second?
I second it.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. We elevate Stanley Stirk to position here on the zoning board of appeals for the meeting tonight. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions? Okay, it's unanimously accepted. Good to have you up here, Stan.
Thank you.
Yes. So, having said that, let's have the roll call, please.
Vice Chairman Rifle,
Present.
Board Member DeWitt,
Yes.
Board Member Milligan,
Here.
Board Member Stirk.
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, agenda item number 3, consideration for approval of the November 9th, 2023 meeting minutes as printed. Craig has prepared those minutes and distributed them. Are there any additions or corrections or changes to the minutes as prepared for the November 9th meeting?
Your Honor, I'll make a motion, we approve it as printed.
Is there a second? Okay, it's been moved and seconded. We accept the Thursday, November 9th meeting minutes of the Zoning Board of Appeals. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Okay, we've accepted them. Thank you, Craig. Okay, I'd like to move to agenda item number 4, public comments. It's customary in Ferrisburg for most of our meetings that we give members of the public the opportunity to share anything that they would like to share with us, both at the beginning of the meeting, and I think probably we have a period at the end. I don't see that we do. So at this moment, but if you want to share something relative to the public hearing that we're having, I would ask that you refrain and make your comments about the public hearing at the time of the public hearing. So aside from those, anyone in the public like to make any comments to us tonight? Okay, not seeing any. We've opened and closed the public comments at 7:03. Let's move on to agenda item number 5, public hearing. A request filed by Sietsma Construction LLC to construct a 2-foot addition to an existing deck with a 5-foot north side yard setback instead of the required 10-foot north side yard setback. The parcel is described as parcel number 7003-18-475-001, commonly known as 19211 North Shore Drive. I think the way I'd like to proceed here is I'd like the developer to share what they're doing here. So please come forward and tell us who you are and what the story is.
Hi, Brian Seitzma, Seitzma Construction. I have worked many clients on the North Shore for many, many years. The Gillespies hired us several months ago to work their 19211 property, do some improvements, interior improvements, which we permitted. And along the process, they made the request of me if I thought we could pursue a variance for the deck. At that time, I learned that there had been a previous variance request of 6 feet, I believe it was, along with a couple of other items. That was denied, and I asked him to send me those documents. He did right away, and I studied it, talked to Craig about it a little bit. And I went back to the Gillespies and I said, whomever had counseled them on the 6-foot request was, in my opinion, out of line. It was a big ask, for multiple reasons, notwithstanding the Beach Association walk and the 5-yard north side yard nonconformity. So I recommended to them a 2-foot request to extend the deck from 10 feet, what it currently is, to 12, without changing the location, east-west proximity of the columns or the posts that hold the deck currently. Technically, if you start to relocate those east or west, then you would invite yourself into a DEQ permit because of setbacks and all of that, because it's considered structure. They agreed. I explained why and showed them a bunch of the documents and a current survey from Brian White to the south, which we had just done some fixing up and painting and work on their home. Why and 2-foot would maybe be a reasonable request. I went and met with several of the neighbors, Bridget Vanderhoff to the north, who bought Chet Grahowski and Susie Meekoff's place at 19201, which I had built in 2005, and met with Brian and Denise White, and we put a mock-up board on the north railing of the deck to show where the new frame would be, to raise the deck up 14 inches, so it's 0 step out of the main floor, and then the 2-foot extension. Bridget Vanderhoff blessed that and created a little letter for us, and Brian and Denise White were fine with the same. And I had talked to several other people in the area and explained it to them, and no one really had any issue at all. Through the process of challenging all the dimensions off the properties, we figured out that we didn't need a variance request for the majority of adding the 2 feet because of the angular proximity of the property line. We were already far enough back for that. So the encroachment on the rear yard is not increasing any nonconformities on the property. It's really only pertaining to the 5-foot north-south of this 2-foot addition. So it's the northwest corner of the deck would be 2 feet by 5-foot north-south because of the 10-foot side yard zoning ordinance currently. Back in 1998, when this house was permitted, I don't know all of the ins and outs. Dennis Cron was city manager at the time. I have not spoken to him about it. Somehow this home was approved with a 5-yard side yard north setback.
5 foot.
Or 5 foot, sorry. And it was, at that time, only a 2 or a 2'6" request to end up where they currently are. There was a variance issued for that, but only for 2 feet or 2 feet 6 inches in 1998.
Right.
So I think long and short, without going into much of a further diatribe, we're asking to keep the line clean on the west face of the deck. Going the width of the structure plus the 2 feet gives us a 12-foot deep deck. Now, I was also deeply involved in many of the new and old setbacks, waterfront setbacks. Craig and I talked numerous times when the zoning ordinance was being rewritten. Our spirit of what we do out here, I mean, North Shore has been our bread and butter for a long time. And there are a lot of good people out there. Ours is not to create issues. I wouldn't suggest to my client an issue that would cause anybody any problems. So the request, I told the Gillespies, keep it reasonable. So that's really it. Do you have any other questions?
Yeah, we will, sure.
Okay. I think that's really all I have right now.
Okay. All right, thank you. You can have your seat. Anyone want to, this is a public hearing, and anyone would like to make comments, ask questions about the project in the public? Okay, I'm not seeing anyone stepping up, so I'm going to close this public hearing at 7:10. And I'd like to move on to item number 6, which is a motion to approve or not approve a request filed by Sitzma Construction to construct a 2-foot addition to an existing deck with a 5-foot north side yard setback instead of the required 10-foot north yard side yard setback. Parcel is described as parcel number 700318475001, commonly known as 19211 North Shore Drive. So we're going to talk about this, but I must say, as I went through materials here related to this, I did have some questions here that I'd like to ask Mr. Sitzma. And you, my fellow members here of the zoning board, may have their own questions to ask.
Your Honor,
Yes.
while you're digging for your information, can I ask Craig
Sure.
a question? We've already had 4 variances on this piece of property, correct?
4 or 3?
One,
Correct,
two,
4.
3, 4.
Yep.
Okay, I just wanted to put that into the record. There's already been 4 variances on this property.
The memo we were given has 5 total. Is that correct, or is it 4?
In 98, there was 4 variances.
Okay.
A question that I have is, back in, you were not the developer of of this house when it was first built, is that correct?
No.
Back in 98, when someone came before the zoning board of appeals, and they wanted a 2-foot 6-inch setback on the north side, as opposed to the 10-foot setback that's required, that was approved by the planning commission, or by the zoning board of appeals. Now, my question here is, more recently, there was a request for 5 changes on September 8th of '22, one of them being for a 5-foot north side yard setback, and that was denied. How far does that house sit back from on the north?
5 feet.
It does sit back. When did they get the right to put it 5 feet? I don't understand that. Normally, it's supposed to be 10 feet, and back in '98, it got a 2.5-foot setback. When did it become 5?
I don't know the answer to that. I don't know if they just built it 5 foot, did they reduce the size of the house, they took less than what they requested.
Or did the builder just say, well, we want 5 feet, so we're just gonna build it?
Yeah.
We don't
It's
know.
5 feet now, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's 5 now.
That's what the.
They could have gone
shows.
2.6 according to that
Yeah,
variance.
so my point is, they built a house that's never got the required zoning board of appeals approval for the 5-foot setback to start with, that I'm aware of, unless there's some records here.
Well, it would have had to get a building permit even in '98. That would have had to have been blessed. The zoning would have to be approved before they would issue a building permit.
I don't know.
And furthermore, Ottawa County, even in '98, was just getting on the scene with engineered septic systems. Part of the issue with this lot, being its shallow depth, is back then, they would not allow a standard septic on the west side of the home. And I think had they done that, it would have pushed the house east where it belongs, and it would have been about, what was it, 11 feet further east? It could have been, but the system they put in with structural dry wells underneath the paver driveway is like, it pushed the house back, because it can't be in the utility right away.
No, you made a good case here. And also your photographs that you included, that was very well done, so.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, that was good support.
I mean, I saw all of that. It looked a little convoluted, but I don't think Gillespie's had their arms around any of that when they bought this, because they've bought this quite recently from Judd and Lynch, right? So, but, yeah.
Okay.
So, Craig, as I'm reading this, we approved in 1998, 2 feet, and they took 5 feet. Is that correct?
2.5 feet was approved.
Right, they were granted 2.6, but they built with 5 foot.
So they already exceeded what we approved in 98 by 3 feet.
No, it's the other way.
No, it's the other way.
In other words, they were approved to have a 2.5 foot side yard, and they put in 5.
Okay, so we were talking about the side yard, not the deck.
Right.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
My mistake.
Well, because we're actually talking about 10 square foot of deck.
Right.
But to Mr. Sturk's point, the 2 foot or 2'6", I believe, Craig, correct me if I'm wrong, that was issued in 98, allowed them a 2'6" side yard.
They could have gone 2.6,
And
correct?
they didn't. They went to 5 feet.
Okay.
Okay,
And I think there was, I mean, if I know how things go with this kind of stuff, I'm sure that after that was approved, there were conversations around. I think they reconsidered and bumped it to 5.
Well, I misunderstood. I thought.
Oh, okay.
I thought the deck was 3 feet over what was approved.
Oh,
And it's
yeah,
actually
no.
3 feet short of
It's-
what was approved. in 98.
Yeah, it's technically 3 feet short of it.
Right, I understand now. I misread that.
But I don't know how all the beach walk stuff worked out back then. I mean, that was the issue. I don't actually recall right now when the beach walks were established at, what are they, 15 feet wide?
That goes back to the 40s
Yeah.
and earlier.
It's older than me then.
Yeah, that was
By a lot.
plotted, when that was plotted out into lots, that was one of the selling points of the properties across the street.
Right.
To access Lake Michigan.
Well, and that and along with the huge mobile home park that was platted in the Dune Preserve. Did you ever see the drawings of that?
Yeah, I did.
Mr. Sitzville, I've got a question about this diagram here. Could you come up here and answer a question for me? I once seriously considered becoming an architect, but I chose not to do that. Became an economist instead. As I look at this diagram, you have a distance here.
Yeah.
And from the context, I'm thinking it's going from here to here.
No, there's a hash mark right here.
Okay.
It's to the corner of the home.
Well, that's what I thought it should be. But if that's the case, then this can't be possible, because between these hash marks, this is only 36.4. It's inconceivable that that could be that. Something's wrong here. You see my point?
I did not realize that I put a hash mark there. That was speaking to the 2 foot of the addition. This 36.4 goes to the house corner. And I double checked those the other day because we just had fresh stakes off the White residence property.
Okay?
We just had that surveyed, because that deck was actually hanging over the property line about 7.5 inches. Dennis Braun wanted us to fix that, so we resurveyed White's, which is in the same line. The rear yard lines are the exact same. I verified that with Excel Engineering. I had them pull it up, which they provided that. And then we strung a line the other day, and I have photographs in my phone of 37 foot 1 inch, where I'm right now on this document saying 36. it's bigger than I've even said here.
Okay.
And the 40.2 is accurate.
You can see why I was confused.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I
Okay,
put a
all right.
hash mark where it's-
Okay, thank you. Fellow zoning board members, do you have some questions here?
So I guess one question I have, if we've got from 98, they approved 2.5 feet, wouldn't that carry through to now?
I think it would, yes.
So that we don't need to give another variance, because that variance covers it, is what I'm saying.
Well, it only covers the deck going back 10 feet, and he wants it to go back 12 feet.
So we're actually talking about,
The deck
oh, all right, we're
extension.
talking about a 2-foot by 5-foot section on the northwest corner.
Yes. Well,
That's essentially what it comes down to.
a 2-foot extension there, yes,
2-foot extension
to the west,
to the west,
yes.
Toward the water, correct?
towards the water.
Okay.
So,
Yeah.
so the dirt we're talking about, so to speak, that's gonna be covered is 10 square feet. 2-foot by 5-foot. That's
Isn't it?
if this 2.5-foot variance that was given in 98 continues all the way out, even for the new deck, we don't have any problem.
Well, that's a question, Craig.
So the 2.6 variance was for the footprint that was approved back in 1998. Anything new, it has to comply with the zoning ordinance.
All right, so the 2 feet doesn't fall under the 2.5 feet.
Correct.
All right.
That's the answer.
Theoretically, without slitting my own throat, if they didn't use that variance within 1 year, it's void.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
So we're 30, so we're 26 years past it. All right.
Well, we don't know. I don't know
Yeah.
when it was used.
I lived in Jennison at the time, so I didn't.
Okay, as we're debating here, we had something handed to us here for tonight's meeting, and I guess we need to enter this into the record as we're discussing it here. So, thank you, Mr. Sitzman. I guess I need to read this in its entirety, Craig, you think?
I'm not sure you have to read the whole thing. You can just, I got a letter from Mrs. Susan Lindquist, and she's opposing the variance request. You're more than welcome to read it if you like.
How would you say, you have a letter opposing that from Susan Lindquist and enter that in the record?
Yes, we do have a letter from Susan Lindquist to the Zoning Board of Appeals. And essentially she says, I object to the proposed reduced setbacks on the west and north sides of 19211 North Shore Drive. I am the property owner of platted lots 199, 200, 201, 202, and 198 partial of Grand Haven Beach subdivision number 2. All of my lots are within 300 feet of 19211 North Shore Drive. I would be negatively impacted by the proposed reduced setback variance as they directly affect my lake access. And she has a long story here about why that is the case. And she says they do not meet the standards for approval of zoning variances. So we should note that in the record, and I think we should all read what she has written. And if you haven't, I'm going to give you a minute to read it.
I think we should also enter into the record then, the letter from the Beach Association, which Craig received this afternoon.
The Beach Association supports the request.
It does. Okay, city manager received a message. Let's see here. From Dennis Cron. It says the Beach Association received notice of the February 8th ZBA hearing on your variance application regarding your rear deck. Today, on behalf of the association, I sent an email to city manager indicating that the association had no objection to the requested variances for the deck project. And they say they're willing to have no problem with it, subject to the owner riding herd on the contractor so that he does exactly what is required by the association, basically. You certainly may.
Yeah, there's no worries there because,
Come up to the microphone. We have to get it on record.
sorry.
I've worked with Dennis a long time. I'm more concerned with making sure I keep Dennis happy than even the homeowner. We'll stay off the beach walks, don't worry. Or put them back better than we found them.
Thank you. Any further thought or discussion, questions that we have at this point? I'm going to read Craig's memo to us dated January 30th about this project. To the Zoning Board of Appeals, Craig Bessinger, City Manager, the Gillespie property, 19211 North Shore Drive. On September 8th, 2022, a request was heard by the Zoning Board of Appeals for 5 variance requests for the referenced address. The variance requests were denied. See the attached September 8th, 22 minutes. During the September 8th, 22 meeting, comments were given. The property received variances to construct the house. Attached are the minutes from the March 12th, 1998, which lists the variances granted. The public hearing notice published on January 24th stated the request was for 2 variances, a 5-foot north side yard setback variance and a 5-foot rear yard setback variance. Included in the packet is an email dated Wednesday, January 24th, 2024 from David Jerusik, Horizon Community Planning, which explains the rear yard setback and that a variance would not be required to extend the deck 2 feet to the west. The request printed on the February 8th, 2024 ZBA agenda is less than what was published. The request can be less than, but not more. Also included in your packet is a memo from Mr. Jerusik dated September 2nd, 2022, which reviewed the variance requests for the September 8th, 2022 meeting, which included a variance request for a 5-foot north side yard setback variance. The analysis does not change with the February 8th, 2024 variance request. Staff has no objection to the request to extend the deck 2 feet to the west with a 5-foot north side yard setback. That's the city's recommendation. I don't know that we need to, do we?
We need to read Jerosik into the record, Craig?
Not necessary. You reference it.
Okay.
Which we did, right?
Yep.
You give me a half a minute here.
We have a set of standards for granting a variance. And we didn't go through all of the standards and address them. Should we do that?
You can, they're kind of highlighted in David Drasik's September 22 memo.
Your Honor, if you don't want to read it in, I got my thoughts here.
Okay,
Recommendation from the city planner is a strict approach to variance consideration would result in a denial of all requests. However, the ZBA has the discretion to determine what is extraordinary conditions and what is reasonable accommodation to make any. Please note that motion in support or against variance must be specific reference to ZBA's findings concerning applicable standards, blah, 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 blah. So basically, they don't meet all the criteria, but it is up to the zoning board to make a determination to approve or not approve. That being said, are you ready for a motion?
I think so.
I would make a motion, we approve it based on planning, the city's support of the request, and that even though it doesn't meet all the criteria in the zoning practices, that we approve it.
Is there a second for the motion? Okay, it's been moved and seconded. We accept this request. Is there any further discussion? Okay, if not, let's take a roll call vote.
Board Member DeWitt,
Yes.
Board Member Milligan,
No.
Board Member Stirk,
Yes.
Vice Chairman Riffle,
Yes,
motion passed.
thank you. A lot of paper here.
Too much paper.
There's too much paper.
Got like half a tree up here.
Okay. We've got item number 7 here, selection of a chairperson. Our colleague, Mike DeWitt here is now on city council, and he submitted his resignation as chair of this body, I don't know, back in the fall, after he was elected. November 21st, he submitted his resignation as chair. So I'm serving as vice chair, and so that's why I'm presiding over this meeting. Are you going to be the city council representative to this
Yes.
body?
Yes.
You are, okay, all right.
Your Honor, at this point, I'd like to table the selection of the chairperson to the next meeting, following the city council's vote on Mr. Stirk as a full-time member.
Okay, there's been a motion to table. Motions,
Second it.
it's been seconded. Motions to table are not debatable, so no discussion, and so let's take a vote on this. Roll call vote.
Board Member Milligan,
Yep.
Board Member Stirk,
Yep.
Board Member DeWitt,
Yes.
Vice Chairman Rifle,
Yes.
motion passed.
Okay, let's move to item number 8. Discussion and to take action, if appropriate, to recommend to city council the appointment of, and we got a blank here, as a regular member of the zoning board of appeals.
Your Honor?
Yes.
I would make the motion, we ask this city council to appoint Mr. Stirk as a regular member of the zoning board based on his expertise and education in this particular field of endeavor.
Second it.
Okay, it's been, okay, now we also have an application for,
Well, this takes precedent over the application, do that next.
I think as chair here, before we take a vote on this, we have to entertain anyone who's asked to be a member. Mr. Cirque has been serving as an alternate, and so he's been at several of our meetings and has followed what's going on. But Mr. O'Donnell, you indicated interest to be on this board, is that correct? Would you like to share any thoughts with us here?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Tim O'Donnell, 540 Ferry Street. I did indeed put in an application to be on the ZBA. I have no problem with Mr. Stirk being a regular member, and if selected by the ZBA to be appointed to the alternate position that would be that's open right at this point.
So you're saying you would like to then apply as an alternate?
Correct.
Yes, okay, all right, thank you.
Yep.
That's helpful.
That would make the most sense at this point in time, to have somebody who has experience on the board over a new person, so.
Yes, thank you. Okay, we have a motion on the floor here, and I insisted on a little discussion. So are we ready to vote? It's been moved and seconded that we recommend the city council appointment of Stanley Stirk as a permanent member or ongoing member of the zoning board of appeals. Let's take a roll call vote, please.
Board Member Stirk,
Abstain, because it's for me.
Board Member DeWitt,
Yes.
Board Member Milligan,
Yes.
Vice Chairman Rifle,
Yes,
motion passed.
thank you.
Thank you.
Yes. Congratulations.
I'll even vote for you.
Okay, we're down to agenda item number 9, reports, comments.
Oh, let's act on Tim's request to be appointed as alternate.
Okay,
Excuse me, Mr. We have, so Stan's still an alternate, and we have another alternate right now, so we should all have 2 alternates until Stan's moved into the regular member. We would have to wait to vote for another alternate.
Okay, all right.
Okay.
Thank you, my mistake.
and does Mr. O'Donnell have to apply to be an alternate, or does his current application in there
This current application will work.
will work? Okay, all right, cool. Okay. So, reports, comments?
Good job.
Thank you.
Motion to adjourn. If nobody's
Oh,
got
wait,
anything else.
zoning administrator,
No report?
no report? Yes.
Motion to adjourn.
Okay. It's been moved and seconded, we adjourn. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions? We are adjourned.
You have to live in Perrysburg to get on the board.
Yes.
You gotta live in Perrysburg to get on the ZBA.
I just moved here. I lived in Georgetown.
Handed them my copy that you got.
40, almost 50 years.
He'll give us another copy.
Yeah. I've been active in home builders since the late 70s.